Hey, this is Zero at ReviewZoneHD, and I'm bringing you guys a review of Transformers Dark of the Moon for the PlayStation 3. This title was released in June of this year and follows in the footsteps of a pretty solid previous outing in War for Cybertron, which I stated in the last review I felt was a better title of the two because of the online combat. This game still does have some redeeming qualities that make it a little bit better in some aspects, but it also has a couple major downsides that weren't in the last game. Let's go ahead and get into the review. One of my two main complaints with the last game was fixed with this game, but it sports a few different types of new issues. The gameplay has you venturing into some decent looking environmental areas, and they vary greatly unlike the last title. However, the campaign is much more linear, restricted, and shorter, and you're clocked in at around 5 hours to complete this game compared to the 10 hours for War for Cybertron. The graphics on here are a lot brighter and overall more colorful than the last title, but also don't look as polished. So I'd have to say the graphics in this title, for better or for worse, are just a little bit better than average, but still contain a few flaws that set it back from standing out. Just like with the last game, the sound effects and voice acting is completely epic and is the saving grace for what otherwise may be a pretty average title, but the music I felt was a bit better used in the previous game. There were some parts in the campaign that I actually forgot there was even music playing, as it sort of just blends into the background. However, the battle music was pretty nicely done with a faster pace to it in some parts, and the opening title screen music was always a treat to start the game up to. There were a lot of changes between this title and the last with the actual core gameplay mechanics, and is the sole reason I suggested the last title is the better of the two. There's two basic formats in vehicle mode this time around. One is a stealth mode that is rather awkward and makes it feel like you're sliding around on ice as you move from side to side, and then the standard vehicle mode, which moves much faster and is more restrictive. The drastic change was to how you do combat, as being in the vehicle stealth mode provides significant defensive and offensive advantages opposed to being in the robot form, and this spills over into the online combat as well. And even though you're in a faster vehicle to do battle in, it slows the entire process down, as combat boils down to cars, tanks, or jets firing at one another, which can result in a lot of sloppy missing, compared to two robot form players battling it out using cover and quick vehicle changes, as was the more favorable choice in the last game's online format. You can tell this title was rushed a little bit, as it's just not as polished as it should be, and the combat and even the controls are a little clumsy compared to the last title. But by no means is this a bad game. They do switch things up during the campaign to keep things interesting, such as sections in which you can't transform into vehicle mode, and even some cloaking stealth gameplay for good measure. Any fan of the Transformers series will more than likely enjoy this title, but I can't say I'd recommend this game in general. It has a few nice twists on gameplay and is a unique title as it breaks the typical shooter format that makes so many other titles repetitive and boring. But even so, this unique gameplay can get a bit old and is rinsed and repeated throughout the short 5-hour campaign. Start with War for Cybertron, and if you really enjoy that title, then pick this one up. For everyone else, wait for the pretty sweet looking next Transformers game, which is releasing sometime in fall of next year. Anyways, this is Zero at ReviewZoneHD, and thank you for stopping by.